Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And today I'm talking about Pachacuna, a game currently on Kickstarter, published by Triceratops, designed by Moreno Vogel and Stefan Kraft, a game about abstract strategy, route building, and pick up and deliver, all resting on the backs of llamas, because you're going to be using your llamas. I said llamas. Llamas are adorable, and if you don't agree with me, you can go ahead and hit that dislike button right now. Still watch the video, of course, but hit the dislike button to show you don't like llamas. Or hit the like button if you think llamas are adorable. So that's what we got. We got the like-dislike ratio on this video. It's all about llamas now. It's not about this video. Inherently, you like the video. We know that. And now I'm rambling, and it's a minute into the video. I don't know what I'm doing here. Someone rein me in and stop me now. In any case, in this video, in this game, not video, what you're going to do is you're going to rotate a tile on the board. You're going to take one of these tiles before you move and rotate it, and then ideally you've set up a network in which you can take your little llama, and move it along an open pathway to deliver something to a village. Because like I said, this is llama pick up and deliver. It's abstract strategy in the sense that the whole game is about finding an ideal sequence of networks, because you have two different llamas. You have these black mountain llamas that are proficient at traveling along the mountains in this game, and then you have the white valley llamas that are proficient at traveling along the valleys. So you have two players who are setting up different ideal pathways to try to connect from village to village and figuring out a sequence that's going to work for them. Because each turn, the game is going to start off very slow. The game is going to start off with the whole board is going to be set in a kind of perfectly designed system that really gets no one having an efficient move off the bat. But then within a few turns, you're going to start setting up your networks, because every turn you're going to rotate a tile, and you're going to be slightly better at figuring out how to move from one village to the next in as few moves as possible. And you're going to constantly be getting in each other's ways, as well as helping yourself as you rotate things, because you're going to be looking at the board and figuring out, well, if I rotate this tile that way, it's going to let me travel from this village to that village and then that village in only 2 or 3 moves. Yet at the same time, if I rotate this tile, then perhaps I have a slightly less efficient network, but then I'll also be blocking his current, network, as he has his own little pathway of valleys he's trying to travel on. And by rotating this, I help myself and hurt him, and that might be better for me in the long run. It is a game where you're constantly trying to figure out those pathways and again, both get in each other's ways while helping yourself while transferring those goods from village to village. And each village is going to have on that village a demand banner showing you the demand of that village, both the primary demand as well as the secondary demand. And if you fulfill the primary demand, you're going to be able to take, let's say I go to this village with a purple resource and that one has a primary demand of purple. I will both take a purple resource, putting it in my board over here, because that is one of the victory conditions, is achieving, well, the victory condition is getting all of the resource types, and then I'll also take another one from the bag and dump it in my village, which I can then use to trade in for additional moves in the game. As you get additional resources, you can trade them in either for additional llamas, because who doesn't want more llamas? All the people who click dislike on the video, those are the people who don't want more llamas. But all you liking people who clicked like, you guys want more llamas, which is excellent, because you can trade in resources to get extra llamas, or you can trade in resources to take a double move on a turn, to rotate an additional tile before moving, potentially allowing you to get further in your pathway. Throughout the game, the main goal is to collect one of each of the different types of resources, so it's not good enough in this game to have a pure sequence of 2 or 3 villages that you've optimized a way to go back and forth. Ideally, throughout the game, you're going to need to figure out a way to deliver to each and every village on the board, because each of the villages gives you its own unique resource. These demand banners will be frequently interchanged, so every time you fulfill demand, these will go back in the bag and you'll draw out another one. But those primary villages, you're going to have to figure out a way to get to each of them at least once throughout the game, because you need all of the colors to win the game. It's route building, area control, and ultimately it's figuring out a pattern that works for you. The game, Pachacuna, is a whimsical game. I already talked about the fact that it has llamas. Llamas are adorable. That aspect of building your valleys and your mountains, it's an interesting interplay of managing to have 2 people on the same board with completely different pathways that they are trying to build at the same time. You're operating in the same sphere while operating completely differently, and that combination works really well. The ability to trade in resources both for more llamas as well as for extra moves is an intricate balance in the game that really works well in this game, because throughout the game you're trying to get one of each resource. That is the ultimate goal. But you'll find that if you purely try to power through to that ultimate goal without any form of enablement along the way, you will likely find yourself wanting in this game. You'll likely find yourself facing someone else who did try to build up a better engine and then won the game therefore. Instead, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to see those ideal pathways. You're going to figure out, well, these 2 or 3 villages I have a better sequence and I can more optimally rely on my network to generate additional resources each turn, while slowly but surely expanding out and trying to close off getting 1 of each resource. That balance of going direct for the win or trading in for extra moves or trading in for extra llamas does work out well in each game, giving you different ways to try to pursue a strategy and different ways of seeing those patterns and taking advantage of them. It is immensely satisfying in this game, immensely satisfying to get halfway across the board in a single turn, or further than that, to go from village to village in a single move. And as you have more llamas on the board, you'll be able to move them all simultaneously within a single move. And so going from having a turn where you rotate a piece and then move 2 or 3 llamas to a village is immensely rewarding. You feel like, look at what I did. Look at that pathway I built up. Now, don't get me wrong, your opponent will get in the way in a second, which does bring me to things that aren't necessarily quite as fun about this game, in the sense that, to begin with, I touched upon this already, this game does have a slow start. The game gives you a perfectly balanced setup in the beginning, a setup in which no player is ahead of the other. It's not a random setup, it's scripted in terms of the exact way you set up these pieces in order to ensure a perfect balance, which is great for the balance part. But it does mean that as you move into the game, you're going to encounter a bit of a slower start, as those first 3, 4, possibly even more moves are kind of just annoying. They're kind of in the way as you start to build up those networks. Additionally, even mid-game, for sure early game, but additionally mid-game as well, it can slowly devolve into who can block the other person more effectively. This is not a game purely about how to be most efficient yourself. Rather, it sometimes can just be frustrating, because sometimes the best way to win this game is to try to get in each other's ways, which is not always a bad thing, but I think the level to which this game has that can be frustrating, because the whole point of the game is to build up those networks. And then the whole way to be efficient at the game is to build up your own networks while crashing down your opponents, which can devolve to this bit of a take that as you push back and forth, just getting in each other's ways more than you focus on building up. And then lastly, the setup in this game is, well, it's frustrating, to be frank. You're going to have this paper, this sheet that you're going to have to use to put your tiles down perfectly. You're going to set up on the board and then you can just whip it out from underneath easily enough. It doesn't take that long, to be clear, but the game itself is not that long either. So 4 to 5 minutes of setup time in a game that only plays in about 20 minutes or so is a bit of a trade-off that I'm not sure is ideal. And I don't see an easy way around that, because the problem is, going back to that balance aspect, if you just put the tiles down randomly, there will be a clear beneficiary to that randomness. There'll be someone who clearly has a better sequence of paths. And so you do kind of need to have a balanced setup, but then that trade-off comes at the exchange of a tedious setup instead, which is, well, slightly irksome. As far as things I can see others not liking, this game, it's basically an abstract. If you don't like abstract, if you don't like pick up and deliver, this game has both of those. Now, fortunately for myself, I do like abstract games. I'm a big fan of abstract games in general. And as far as pick up and deliver, I tend to find pick up and deliver as a category slightly more tedious than I would like in some games. In this game, it doesn't often feel as much pick up and deliver, which is why that one didn't really bother me so much here, because the game feels more like it's about setting up ideal pathways, and if you do it right, and if you're not frequently getting each other's ways, you're going to have turns where the pick up and deliver is simply moving from one place to the next, and those can be, like I said already, immensely rewarding. As far as my final thoughts on Pachacuna, while it does certain things in the game well, and while the theme is whimsical and adorable, remember all those like buttons for llamas, for myself, abstracts are a very tough category for something to shine in. I tend to only keep a handful of what I feel are the best abstracts that I feel that particularly excel. I did enjoy Pachacuna. I have played it roughly 5-6 times. I kept on going back in that initial setup, and I set up again and tried to have as many plays as possible while it's all set up and going. And I would never turn down a game of it, and I would recommend it. But at the same time, I'd recommend it as a good game, a game that has a whimsical theme, a solid system of rewarding engine building, but also with things that are slightly frustrating between the take that elements and then the set up to playtime ratio. For myself, Pachacuna is a game that will not be currently staying in my collection, but it probably is worth checking out, especially if you like abstracts, and especially if you like llamas. Until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, have a good one.